You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. He is Tom Vanderford. He comes every week. He's here most Saturdays, but it's soon to be Fridays whenever the football season starts. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, I'm doing great. I got to tell you something real quick. So I'm at work earlier in the week, and I needed some help from somebody there at work. And I left the person a message, and he came out and he goes, "Man, I didn't know I worked with the mayor of Corinth."
That's awesome. Yes. Hey, the mayor of Corinth, man.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, I just said, "Hey, Connor."
Yeah. Hey, Connor. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much.
He said he loves Steven Willis, watches him every day.
That's awesome. It's good stuff. He could be an insider. And we are launching our Insiders program, which is a text-based way to follow Ole Miss sports. We just send you the relevant information. It's super easy. You can have a good time. You have one-on-one contact, the ability to contact me directly and not through a chat room. We're going to have private videos that are just for insiders and all of that does. If you are a current listener, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change for you. This is in addition to, and it should be a lot of fun. We've added like 50 subscribers in the last 2 days. It is awesome. pretty impressive. Yeah.
Awesome.
So fall camp is allegedly less than a week away from us.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is not because it's been announced by Ole Miss, not because Sports Information is doing anything about that, but it's because a week before the game, August 24th, Florida State plays Georgia Tech, and they have started fall camp. So if the game is a week later, you figure you would start fall camp about a week later, which would be about Wednesday or Thursday. But it's interesting how secretive and how weird they are about fall camp.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's he's been that way since he's been there. But he models his stuff after Saban, and Saban always kept things close to the vest as well. So, but I'm good. I we're going to play the games, and that's going to be the best part.
What storylines do you think are going to come out of fall camp? What storylines do you think people need to pay attention to?
I think that Pooh Paul is going to show out.
Okay.
I think he's going to cement himself as the best linebacker on our defense. And I know that's saying a lot, but I think he's going to be a superstar this year. That's not just my opinion. That other people feel that way as well.
You're not entirely wrong. I'm pretty much right there with you. But when you look at linebackers, I did a show probably a week ago about the linebacker positions at Ole Miss. And there's such a variety of types of player that are playing linebacker at Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah.
The little guy that is Suntarine Perkins, who he's about 205, 210, that range. You've got the big thumper and Raymond Collins. You got TJ Dudley, which has a chance to be a real athlete player for Ole Miss. So there's a question of what is going on, what is the best fit for a Pete Golding defense, and who's going to stand out? Because I'm really looking forward to seeing Daugherty and Perkins. I'm really looking forward, honestly, Corey Coleman. I forget about him every single time I talk about the linebacker room, and he's a potential starter in that unit. Exactly. So I do think the storylines of who will be the cream that rises up with this Pete Golding defense in fall camp.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good story. And it's going to be fun to watch. We're going to have some battles in the secondary. We're going to have some battles at linebacker. I'd like to see some depth battles at wide receiver. I know we have a lot of future NFL people, but I'm interested to see how Caden Lee does. I think he's a superstar. And I want to see how Aiden Williams does, as well as the new kids.
I want to see how Juice Wells does.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't want to say Lane stepped in it, but he definitely did himself no favors with releasing that video last week where Juice Wells was out in Vaught Hemingway Stadium making an unbelievable catch and running side to side. But behind it, the music playing was 2001, which everybody knows is a South Carolina tradition.
Yeah, and we gotta travel to South Carolina, so that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, he really did himself no favors.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, if you look at the back part of the defense, and I did a video on Friday, the podcast on Friday, talked about how Cortez Thomas is probably the most important visitor that is coming to Juice Fest. And that is because of how good he is, the position he plays, the area he comes from, and the recruiting battle that is bound to happen over the next 5 months. All of that factors in to where you want to make a good impression. And when you look at the secondary room for Ole Miss this year, you got a bunch of guys that's kind of a one and done. After the season, they're going to move on. Now, somebody might have some eligibility when it comes to post-COVID. I don't even try to play the eligibility game, but it doesn't look like many of them do. I think that they've recruited so many different players out of the transfer portal, and King Lawrence and Lewis Moore and Yam Banks, and returning John Saunders and Trey Washington, and so many Jaden Kennedy players. This is another situation like the linebacker room. Fall camp, a major story is going to be who are the starters at safety for the Ole Miss defense, because I do think it's going to be Isaiah Hamilton and Trey Amos at corner. Who are going to be the safeties for Ole Miss this season?
That's going to be interesting. I think Saunders and Washington, but I've never, watched the transfers much, at least at Ole Miss. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Yeah, and in fall camp this year, and let's be real, it needs to happen. If it doesn't happen, that is honestly a sign that maybe Lane Kiffin might be puckering a little bit under the pressure. But there needs to be an open scrimmage or two during fall camp, because there's always an open scrimmage or two. You don't have a transfer portal that you're running from or anything like that. I do think this needs to be as close to business as usual as it normally is. If it is different than what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, that's going to tell me that they might be puckering a little bit.
Well, that's true. That's a possibility. I hope they're not puckering, but it worries me though, because the last time we were ranked this high, we was Jeff Snead's last year at Ole Miss, and we wilted under the pressure, and I'm hoping that doesn't.
Well, let's be real about that year. That 2019 was overranked going into the season.
Overranked, yes, it was, and not near as deep as we are.
Yes, and the defense from 2008 basically all graduated. That's what I'm talking about. Right. And so that was going to be a problem. And Houston Nutt, right, for whatever reason, decided he wasn't going to start off playing Dexter McCluster at running back.
Yeah. And, exactly. But we've got so much depth though, man. I just can't see anything super bad happening. Maybe he's just wanting to keep things close to the vest. I don't know. But we have so much stinking talent, especially on offense.
And we'll get to that in just a second. Thank you for watching the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. When we come back, we will talk about some of those position battles, some of the depth, and the fact that we've kind of switched on football after the offseason, and you can feel it happening. We'll talk about that a little bit. Maybe Hunter Elliott coming back into the fold for Ole Miss baseball as well, which that is monumental, huge news. But before we get started with that, I do want to let you know, passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home some huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive on ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing the way we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep these sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up any bets anytime I am in the mood. Maybe I want to bet on Ole Miss and their over-under of 9.5 wins this season, or Jackson Dart at plus 1,500 to win the Heisman. Now I can. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Trade Tarek Skubal, Tigers. All right. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you each and every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And Tommy, we are pretty fired up, but listen to this little anecdote, and I'll let everybody know. It looks like Navy Federal Credit Union is going to be coming on board the Locked On Network as a sponsor, and they're just trying to work together their ad reads and all that, their campaign in the Locked On Network. Yours truly might be one of the voices of that Navy Federal campaign. And I was joking with it. It's like, hey, I'm not only the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, I was Petty Officer Second Class Steven Willis. And I was pretty excited. My wife just gained 10 levels of respect just because something Navy popped back up 20 years later.
Yeah, I'm loving that. Yeah, as a former sailor as well, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's cool. They hit it up. We're in the middle of talking about it and all of that stuff, but it looks like they're coming on board. And the ad rates are not cheap for Locked On, and that's intentional. It generally is, because they want a model to where they can have a 30-minute show and you don't have to have 30 breaks in the course of the plan. You just have 2, but since they're paying that premium, they get their bang for their buck. You get a little bit back in return and all of that. I think I'm getting somewhere in the neighborhood of about $120 per ad read this year.
Oh, that's freaking awesome, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward. It's football season, man. Anytime it's football season, you got to do what you have to do. But let's get back to camp. Camp's going to start this week. There's position battles. What position battles has your attention?
Running back.
Yeah,
I mean, I know we've got tons of backs. A lot of them have really good resumes. I just want to see what happens at running back and receiver.
So
tight end.
And all of them. No, I'm kidding. Ulysses Bentley IV. You do not think he's going to be the lead away, or is it Rashad Amos?
Going to be running back by committee. I don't think some of those guys would have came if it was going to be a situation like Quinshawn was last year, where he got the lion's share of the carries. I think that it's probably okay with Bentley because, he's had some injuries and this and that and the other. You don't want to be the workhorse back. You want to be a situational back. That's the way the NFLs went to for the most part. And I want to see some of these guys, I want to see what they can do and what they bring to the offense.
One thing that's really interesting to me is the position battle on the offensive line. And I mean that is like which 5 players are going to be the primary offensive linemen. And we don't have really any idea how that's going to look because nobody has seen them practice. All we saw was a hot dog eating contest and a 7-on-7 game in the spring. But Diego Pounds versus Jade Williams.
Yeah.
Who gets the upper hand? What about Micah Pettis? Does that move out there? You have Julius Buelow. You have Nate Kelepo. You have Eli Acker. You have Jeremy James. You have 10 players that all have extensive experience. I think I had Phil Steele on my show when he talked about how Ole Miss had their offensive linemen had a combined like 240 starts between them. Just some ridiculous number, which means nobody really knows how this is going to shake out. All that we know for sure is that Caleb Warren is going to start out as the center.
Right.
That's about what we know. But
and I think that we've got the most depth on offensive line I think we've ever had in the modern era. Let me.
And it's a 16-game season.
Yeah,
and they're building for that.
He stacked this team up for a 16-game season. Exactly. That's why we're so deep everywhere, and we've got very good talent everywhere. I just can't wait.
Yeah, it should be interesting. That I genuinely hope that Ole Miss has a couple of open scrimmages during fall camp.
Oh, I do too.
Just so people can lay eyes, because let's just be real about this. The excitement level of Ole Miss fans right now going into the season is unlike anything that they've seen.
Oh, yeah.
And there needs to be an avenue to at least get a little bit of just kind of a release valve on that. Because if not, this is what you're looking at. August 31st, Ole Miss wins the game 49-21. And everybody is unhappy and wondering what happened and going absolutely nuts, overreacting that they gave up 21 points defensively to Furman. You need to have some semblance of an outlet for fans to not lay eyes on them the first time on August 31st, because you don't want the first impression on this team to be that game.
Right. You need to relieve some of the pressure from the pressure cooker.
Yes.
Give us some just a little bit, give us some appetizers, so to speak.
Yeah. And should that happen, you have the Insiders program that I've released. We have people like Dalen and perhaps, John Macon Gillespie and all those guys that are going to be in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium for whatever open event they have. So you'll have all the information on that. We're going to figure out how to get those texted fairly quickly to you. So we'll see exactly how it goes. I'm pretty impressed about what Ole Miss can be as a football team. And I am more interested to see how they handle the month lead up to the first game against Furman, because there's a way that you can maximize this. There's a way that you could diminish everything, and it kind of sets yourself up for a trap.
Yep.
And the football team's going to be good, and they're going to do the same thing regardless. It kind of all comes down to marketing, and anybody that follows my channel knows that I market the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm big on that. But if you're not careful, like I said, that there's a chance that everybody's like, hey, they're kind of puckered up right now. What are they hiding from everybody?
Exactly.
So anyway, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Remember, down in the description is the Insiders program that we are launching for fall camp. Tom's a member of it. He signed up for it and all of that. I think like I said, 50 names or so in the last couple of days. Just fantastic. Thank you very much for that. But Tom, what have you got going on this weekend, this last weekend before essentially football?
To be honest with you, I'm probably going to watch some Ole Miss games from last year that I've got DVR'd. I've been kind of building up.
Penn State.
Yeah, I just got done with Penn State. I'm almost done with LSU. I think, maybe Arkansas will be next.
That'd be a good one to watch, honestly, because that Ulysses Bentley, it was a major reason why Ole Miss won that football game.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, Tom, thank you very much for stopping by, and we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.